Welcome again to the Medical Terminology Podcast. This episode is Chapter 11, Part 2, Anatomy of the...
It's the eye! The eye!
Certain body parts are just plain scary, and probably the skeleton, the brain, and the eye are the top three. There's just some kind of thing in the collective human unconscious that these body parts are just scary. Okay, and so now that we had a little fun, we're going to go ahead and look at the anatomy of the eye. From the discussion of word parts, do you remember the term that we give to all of this outer apparatus of the eye, this whole area here? Well, that's the adnexa, A-D-N-E-X-A. And as part of the adnexa, we have the eyelid, which is diagrammed right here. We actually have technically two eyelids. We have the upper eyelid up here, and then we have the lower eyelid down here. And do you remember what the word part is for the eyelid? Well, that's blepharo, B-L-E-P-H-A-R/O. And then where the eyelids meet here in the corners of the eye here, right there, we have what's called the canthus. And this is the inner canthus, which would be by the nose. The nose would be right there. And then we have the outer canthus. And do you remember the word part for canthus? Well, that's cantho, C-A-N-T-H/O. And then on the inside of the eyelids, like they show us right here, this eyelid's just curved out just a little bit here. This inner lining of the eyelid is known as the conjunctiva. And do you remember the word part for conjunctiva? Well, the word part for conjunctiva is conjunctivo, C-O-N-J-U-N-C-T-I-V/O. And then the final part of the adnexa, the outer apparatus of the eye, they have on this diagram labeled the lacrimal gland. And last time when we talked about word parts, I referred to the lacrimal apparatus. And first of all, what does the lacrimal gland and the lacrimal apparatus do? What's it responsible for? Well, it is responsible for tear production. And do you remember the word part that refers to the lacrimal apparatus or lacrimal gland? Well, that would be lacrimo, L-A-C-R-I-M/O. So that covers the adnexa, the outer apparatus of the eye. And then in this particular drawing, they do draw some parts of the eyeball itself. We have the pupil, we have the sclera, and we have the iris. Okay? And to begin with this, we have the sclera, and the sclera is what? Well, it is the white of the eye, which you're familiar with. Any of the part of the outer covering of the eyeball, the white of the eye, outer covering of the eyeball, is the sclera. And do you remember the word part for sclera? Well, that's sclero, S-C-L-E-R/O. O. And then we have the iris, and the iris is the colored part of the eye, this part out here. And do you remember what the iris is responsible for? We talked about that a little bit last time. Do you remember what it does? Well, it is actually responsible for controlling the size of the pupil here, which is the opening that allows light into the eye. So the iris controls how much light can get in and out of the eye. And do you remember the word part for iris? That's irido, IRID/O. And finally in the diagram we have the pupil here. And we already mentioned that the pupil is the black dot in the center of the eye. And the pupil is what allows light to enter into the interior of the eye. And do you remember the word part for pupil? Well, that's coro, C-O-R/O. Okay, now that we've looked at this exterior drawing of the eye, we're going to go ahead and look at another drawing showing the eye in a cross section, and we'll be able to see these outer structures from a different perspective as well as the interior of the eye. Here we have a side view of the eye. This diagram is taken from our textbook, and I'm going to try to take you through this from the outside in. First of all, we have the outermost surface of the eye, the white of the eye, which goes all the way around the eyeball, and this again is known as the sclera. The next layer of the eye is a vascular area. It contains many blood vessels, and again it loops around the eye like this. And this is known as the choroid, C-H-O-R-O-I-D. It's a vascular layer of the eye. It contains many blood vessels that feed the eye. And finally, we have the retina. The retina is the inner layer that goes around like this. And the retina contains the receptors that actually allow the eye to process an image. Now, in the back of the eye, there is this area here where the nerves of the retina bundle together and form what is called the optic nerve. And this is what carries visual impulses to the brain. And right here at this spot where the nerve comes in and starts to join with the retina is what's known as the blind spot. There's no rods or cones, there's no actual retina here. It's the nerve head that comes in, and that's known as the blind spot. We actually don't have vision there, but the brain is able to compensate for that and actually see around it. In the back of the retina, we have this area right here, and it is known as the macula. It is like a yellow area right in the back of the retina. And in the center of the retina, this little pit area, is the fovea centralis. And that is the area of sharpest vision right there. Turning back to the front of the eye, we again here have on this drawing the conjunctiva. It's the inside membrane of the eyelid. Then we have the cornea. And again, the cornea is the clear window at the front of the eye that allows light to come in. The cornea also has a big role in focusing. Light comes in and bends with the cornea, and then the lens bends it further to further refine it. And we want the light to come in and hit that spot right on the retina there in the macula. If the shape of the eye is not perfectly round or there's irregularities in the cornea, then the light is not going to focus properly. It's going to land in front or behind the retina, and that's going to cause a refractive, what we call a refractive area, and that's when you're going to be either nearsighted or farsighted or have astigmatism, etc. And after the cornea, the light again comes in, and we have the iris. We talked about that. The iris controls the size of the pupil, which allows light to enter actually into the eye, where it passes through the lens. And this is the lens right here. Now there's an area here that is not actually labeled in this drawing. This area in here, it's called the uveal tract, U-V-E-A-L, tract. And it's composed of a choroid that comes in. It's composed of the ciliary body, which are muscles and ligaments that control the lens. And it's composed of the iris. So again, the uveal tract is composed of the choroid, the ciliary body, which are these muscles and ligaments in here, and the iris itself. The ciliary body, a subpart of the uveal tract, is just these muscles and ligaments. So that covers some of the major features of the eye. The reason I'm going over this in so much detail is for some reason students tend to get confused by this, or they understudy it. I'm not quite sure what the issue is, but generally students tend to score more poorly on the eye anatomy and ear anatomy than on some of the other tests. So that's why I'm spending some time going over this with you to get you to focus on it so that you won't miss it on the tests. Now we're going to do some practice. What is the term for this structure here and here? Well, that's the upper and lower eyelid. And what is the word part for eyelid? That's blepharo, B-L-E-P-H-A-R/O. What is the term for this structure here and also here? Well, that's the inner and outer canthus, C-A-N-T-H-U-S. What is the term for this structure here on the inside of the eyelid? Well, that's the conjunctiva, C-O-N-J-U-N-C-T-I-V-A. What is the term for the white of the eye? That's the sclera, S-C-L-E-R-A. What is the term for the dark circle in the center of the eye? That's the pupil, P-U-P-I-L. And what is the word part for pupil? That's coro, C-O-R/O. And what is the term for the colored part of the eye? That's the iris, I-R-I-S. What is the medical term for the outer layer of the eyeball? That's the sclera, S-C-L-E-R-A. What is the term for this next layer of the eyeball? That's the choroid, C-H-O-R-O-I-D. And what is the term for the inner layer of the eyeball? That's the retina, R-E-T-I-N-A. And what is the term for this structure that transmits visual impulses to the brain? That's the optic nerve, O-P-T-I-C, nerve. What is the term for this structure that is a yellowish area at the back of the retina? That's the macula, M-A-C-U-L-A. And what is the term for the pit that is in the center of the macula that's the area of sharpest vision? That's the fovea centralis, F-O-V-E-A C-E-N-T-R-A-L-I-S. What is the term for this entire structure here? That's the uveal tract, U-V-E-A-L-T-R-A-C-T. And what is the term for this area, the muscles and ligaments that suspend this structure? That's the ciliary body, C-I-L-I-A-R-Y, body, B-O-D-Y. And what is the term for this structure here, which helps to focus light on the back of the retina? That's the lens, L-E-N-S. What is the term for this structure here that allows light to enter the eye? That's the pupil, P-U-P-I-L. And what is the term for this structure which controls the size of the pupil? Well, that's the iris, I-R-I-S. And what is the term for this structure? That's the cornea, C-O-R-N-E-A. And now finally we're going to go over some more general eye terms that relate to normal vision. The first term is refraction. refraction. Refraction refers to the ability of the lens to bend light rays. The next term is emmetropia. emmetropia. And that word parses into the word parts emmetro, emmetr/o, which refers to what? Do you remember? Well, that's in proper proportion. And then we have the suffix opia, which refers to what? Well, that's a vision condition. So emmetropia is a vision condition where things are in proper proportion. Now, what this really means is it refers to normal relationship between refraction and the shape of the eye. The eyeball is a spherical shape as it should be. The cornea is shaped normally so that people have normal focused vision. And that brings us to the next term, visual acuity. visual acuity. And visual acuity or acuity refers to the ability to distinguish details and shape at a distance. If you have emmetropia, which is normal relationship between refraction and shape of the eye, then you're going to have a good visual acuity. And then two more terms we have. The first one is accommodation, accommodation. And accommodation in this context refers to the process whereby the eyes adjust for seeing at various distances. A related term is convergence, convergence, and this refers to the eye's ability to move inward in order to maintain binocular vision. Okay, so let's review these quickly. What is the term that refers to the ability of the lens to bend light rays? Well, that's refraction, refraction. What is the term that refers to the ability to distinguish details and shapes at a distance? Well, that's visual acuity, visualacuity. And what is the term that refers to the normal relationship between refraction and the shape of the eye? Well, that's emmetropia, emmetropia. And what is the term that refers to the simultaneous inward movement of the eyes in order to maintain binocular vision? Well, that's convergence, convergence. And finally, what is the term for the process whereby eyes adjust for seeing at various distances? Well, that's accommodation, accommodation. Well, we've covered quite a few terms in this episode. Again, anatomy seems to be something that does cause trouble on tests in this chapter, so that's why I've gone over this in more detail than usual. Next time, we're going to start looking at the eye pathologies. This ends this episode of the Medical Terminology Podcast.